What is up with y'all tonight? It's your man Donald King. uh, it's hot in this place. Um, it's not good ventilation in here. So I get a little hot. I cut the gain up on the mic a little bit so that y'all can hear me possibly better than you did in the last podcast. By the way, I will be using my little trusty towel in here to wipe away the sheen because it does get hot in here. How are y'all today? You good? You know, I'm dead tired. I've been going nonstop for a while now. Between avatar work and trying to build things and make my way in society in the way of trading effort away for resources to survive on, you get kind of worn thin. Being an avatar, it's a full-time gig, round the clock. Like, you're hosting something, and when it's time for that thing to speak, well, you're up to the podium now, aren't you? But anywho, no complaints in that way. I'd rather be tired from trying than tired from not having the energy to try. Tonight's podcast it's kind of a tricky one. It plays on the good people episode, right? You know the good people, the ideologues, the righteous judges who make all the corruption in the world possible by running interference for those who would live and benefit at the expense of us all. What it ends up boiling down to is simply this. Ideologues love having the authority to punish and chastise others. They like having the right, the capacity to use rules to justify taking their own anger and frustrations out on other people. They want to target people with their contempt. They want to target people with their aggression and their animus and their rage. And anytime someone breaks the rule, why, they're right there, ready to pounce, looking for, searching for, aching for that opportunity to release their frustration into someone else. Sometimes these cowards put on uniforms and call themselves cops. Sometimes they join mobs. Sometimes they join ideologies. And anything they can get their grubby little mitts on becomes this weapon they use to intimidate, injure, and subdue other people with. They humiliate people for their amusement and satisfaction. The good people. Salem witch trial. Rounding up intelligent people or people who didn't conform to convention and mocking and cheering as these people were burned to death. Feeling accomplished. Having the opportunity to release their rage and frustration in the form of social justice. The good people. What do the good people have in common? From every walk of life. What do people who consider themselves to be the good people, the righteous judges, what do they all have in common? They believe that their beliefs give them license to be aggressive assholes. They are of the impression that believing the right things makes them righteous judges. And that God, which is never anything more than a mirror, an ideological mirror they sort of view themselves through, that God gives them the right to judge and punish others to their heart's content. They're aggressive assholes who are of the impression that their beliefs give them the moral authority to take their anger and frustrations out on other people. The good people. I had this guy who I recently unfriended. I've been doing that more these days. This guy, he would constantly try to bombard me with his belief systems. He's an Islamic man, and you know he was of the belief, or seemed to be of the belief, that he could impress upon me the urgency of his religion, even though I told him religion does not apply to me. I appreciate your zeal and your desire to want to see me benefit from your beliefs, but if it's all the same to you, please refrain from doing this because it becomes very oppressive. I don't want you trying to push your narrative onto me. If it really imbues you with a sense of calm and peace and balance, then let it do that. If it gives you peace and balance, then let it do that. But if it's just a weapon you use to try and recruit and subdue other people, then you have no concept of God. And I repeatedly asked this gentleman, please stop trying to force your narrative onto me. Please stop trying to force your beliefs onto me. It's highly dismissive. It disregards everything that I say and I do. It's like you're making your inner story more important than me and what I'm saying. You're trying to compete against me. Please stand down. He refused to. Because he refused to, I went ahead and unfriended him. But the funny part about it is when someone gives you a boundary, when someone tells you, hey, this is unacceptable behavior, when you believe that your beliefs, your inner story, gives you license to disregard them and persist in what you want to do, but then you're a raging asshole. And you see, taken in a religious frame, you could be like, oh, I'm just trying to save this person's life, and a lot of you are of the same practice, so you may be of the impression that maybe it's not so bad. But look at it like this, right? A woman tells a man, hey, I don't appreciate your advances. Please refrain from doing so. Now, this man, he may have it in his mind that he loves the woman. He may be like, hey, you know what? I'm only doing this for your benefit. I'm only doing this because it's like I want you to see all the beauty and happiness I can bring to your life. And she's like, I appreciate your gesture. I appreciate your intention, but I'm all the way good. Please stand down. Now, if the man persists and it's like, yo, no, you're going to catch this love, then he's assaulting her. This is what happens when you are of the impression that your beliefs give you the authority and the moral leverage to disregard and discount and dismiss other people. Your beliefs make you an asshole. I deal with assholes all the time. Lots of pious Christians, lots of pious people from religions and faith systems. Narcissists. Hands down, narcissists. It brings us to the point of what a belief is, right? A belief is an agreement you make with yourself about and or pertaining to reality. If summed into a statement, a belief is simply, this is how things are. That's how this thing is. It's an agreement you make with yourself. Now, the thing is, you can acquire things to believe in from friends and family members in your respective formative environments and through the socialization process. Yes, you can acquire ideal types to believe in, But at the end of the day, a belief is an agreement you make with yourself that this is how something is in reality. My view of this, regardless of where it came from, my view of this thing is consistent with reality. When you're quick to form beliefs, you tend to be a very stupid person. And by stupid, I mean mentally lazy. You jump to conclusions really fast. You form agreements with yourself without doing any sort of investigation, without doing any sort of mental legwork or validation or making any attempts to falsify what you settle on. A belief is a settled upon view, an agreement a person makes with himself about how things are in reality. Beliefs are unnecessary. You don't need them. There is no scenario in which a belief is essential because no one has to make an agreement with themselves in order to do anything. You can process information in reality in real time. You can sift through information and logically conclude that something makes the most sense within a given frame, but guess what? Your scope of purview is always going to continue to expand. Therefore, what makes sense within the current context may change as the context continues to grow, as it continues to expand. Yet here we are with all these righteous judges, these ignorant assholes running around here trying to say how things are, trying to assert authority, because that's what belief essentially is. It's a person taking upon themselves the authority to determine reality for one or more things. A belief is, in essence, presuming oneself to be God itself. When you make agreements on behalf of reality with yourself or with other people, you're in essence taking on the role of God. You're speaking over God. You're speaking over reality. I had this guy come to my post the other day, and he was trying to critique something from my About a Comment section. And I politely told him, I'm not looking for your criticism. I'm explaining a principle. The principles that I describe, they're based on what I see, not what I believe. I haven't made any agreement with myself that what I see is in fact reality or consistent with reality. The only thing that I can look to is how consistently it performs. So far, there are zero gaps, zero margins for error, and the only adjustments that I've made is are learning how to use the avatar perspective more effectively, more efficiently to dial in, and the revision of language models. Everything beyond that remains consistent, and I'm smart enough to know that it's not manufactured from my own mind. I'm describing what I see, not necessarily what I feel or believe. So even though I speak very confidently about the things that I see through this perspective, I make no agreement with myself that this is how things actually are, which allows me to qualify things by and according to my experience, which sets me up to be objective in my thoughts and interactions with others. Yet here, this person comes to me and they start trying to criticize a point that I made that was based in pure principles. I'm describing what I see through a perspective that has outperformed convention thoroughly across the board. Avatar perspective has outperformed convention across the board to a degree that I've been able to successfully collapse several fields of science and academia down into just a handful which I navigate with exceptional ease. Yet someone comes along and they try to levy their criticism against my proffering, which is based in principles. They elevated their belief. They made it more important than what I was saying. The agreement they made with themselves about the value of what I said was supposed to eclipse and take precedence over what I actually said. We live in a culture where this is very popular. This is very common. I trace it back to Simon Cowell on American Idol. Him just sitting there and judging people and being rude. And tearing people down, and everyone's like, I love Simon! They liked watching him be an aggressive asshole to people. They liked it. Then everybody thought that they were a fucking critic. Right? They go around trying to tear things down, in so elevating their feelings and their beliefs and the agreements they make with themselves about the value of someone else's proffering. They elevate their agreements over and ahead of the proffering itself. Hey, what I think about your performance is more important than your performance. Fuck that. Can you play Flight of the Bumblebee? No, but I've heard it played better. Can you write Flight of the Bumblebee? No, but I've heard other people write things that are better. So you don't have the talent. You don't have the skill. You can't do this particular thing, yet somehow you've elevated this agreement you've made with yourself over and ahead of the thing that you are seeking to devalue for your own amusement and satisfaction. Vanity. Vanity. Someone says, you're wrong because science says... What are they actually saying? They're saying, you don't validate my inner story. You haven't checked with the agreements I made with myself regarding how something is, so it is my place to put you in your place. It is my place to put you in your place. It's hot in here. Elevating the inner story. Elevating the belief over reality. Elevating the belief over reality is speaking over reality. When you take it upon yourself to, what is the word I'm looking for? When you take it upon yourself to invalidate things and people because of your inner story, you're being an ass. Ugh. It's hot in here. Oh, we got a comment. Hold on, let's see. Brother Armando comes in. Belief systems are kind of psychosis because it does not make any allowances for flexibility, including the possibility that you might be wrong. As comfortable as it might be, I try to admit when I'm wrong. It is only my roadmap towards personal growth. I hope I never say anything offensive to you, since I have much respect for you and your podcast. Brother Armando, you are good, buddy. And I appreciate you saying that. And more importantly, I'm agreeing with you. Psychosis, belief systems are shared psychosis. Psychosis is a divorce from reality. Psychosis is a divorce from reality. It's when you can't tell the difference between the inner story and what's actually happening in the world around you. When a bunch of people come together and they all believe in a thing, when they make an agreement with themselves and with each other, which ultimately traces back to agreements they make with themselves, they enter a state of delusion. Think about it like this. Everybody loves the idea of money. Now, in reality, a piece of paper can't tell you what to do. A piece of paper can't tell you that someone else has the power to tell you what to do. Pieces of metal can't do that, or the value they mean to represent. But in psychosis and in society, in this shared psychotic state we all operate within, yeah, they have the power to tell you what to do. They have the power to tell you where you can live. They have the power to tell you what you can eat. They have the power to tell you who your friends are and who aren't your friends. They have the power to tell you who is a suitable romantic interest and who's not. It's psychosis. It's a divorce from reality. Imagine walking down the street and seeing an exceptionally gorgeous woman. One who touches you to the core of what you are. You see her, and she sees you, and instantly you have an intuitive connection. A bond forms almost immediately, and before you know it, you're drawn to her and she's drawn to you, and you start spending time around each other, and it feels good. Everything about it feels good. And all of a sudden, status enters the picture. It turns out the man is very wealthy and the woman's very poor. Or maybe they are in a different country and they live in a caste system where something stands in the way of them being together. Now, in this shared delusion, no, I can never be with this person. No, they're not the right status for me. In reality, the bond formed. Reality is like, hey, y'all link up, make babies, procreate, do that. In society and idealism, no, we can't. It's forbidden. Psychosis. But the point that I really want to get to in this video is, your beliefs do not give you the right to be an asshole. Your beliefs do not give you the right to speak over people or invalidate them. They certainly don't give you the right to go around attacking and murdering people. They don't give you the right to aggress against anyone. Your beliefs are not licensed for you to be a fucking asshole. Period. I had a buddy, man, who recently lost his gig, right? And I'm going to change the frame a little bit, but let's say that my buddy, let's say he's a white racist, right? He's just a white guy. And he's always listening to racist rhetoric. Always listening to racist rhetoric. Going to Klan meetings, congregating with people who are always talking about people of darker hue, tearing them down. And he just happened to work for a black person. All these beliefs he nurtured within himself. All these beliefs he nurtured within himself that he practiced reinforcing by going to these little safe havens that told him he was superior to certain groups of people. It's a question, it's a matter of time. How long would it be before he blew up on his boss? If you're a racist, or not even a racist, if you're, let's just say, as per the example, if you're a white person and you listen to a bunch of racist rhetoric and your boss is black, you're a ticking time bomb. How long is it going to be before you go off on them? How long is it going to be before you go off on them? What if he was in a relationship with a black girl, right? How long would it be before he started calling her names and devaluing her because he was constantly feeding himself and reinforcing these negative beliefs, feeding himself toxicity and reinforcing these negative beliefs? How long would it be before he lost his job and lost his girl by just reinforcing this negative story over and over again, and like sort of settling on this view and belief that his beliefs, the agreements he made with himself, were reality, and that those beliefs entitled him to look down on other people, people unlike him? What are the odds of that happening? Him blowing up on someone he trains himself to hate. Are his beliefs justification for him blowing up? No. No amount of passion for your beliefs is an excuse for you to be mentally or emotionally undisciplined in any situation. But when you feed yourself that garbage over and over and over again, how long is it before you act on it? How long? If you look through the history books, and you'll see portraits of groups, large groups of white racists in the South, standing around and smiling for the camera while a black person was burned and hanged. And they were proud of themselves. Look at what we did. Look at what the good people did. Look what we accomplished. We terrorized and brutally murdered someone we outnumbered at least 300 to 1. We're smiling for pictures, and we're applauding ourselves and patting each other on the back. Look at what we did. Look at what us good people did. Do their beliefs, the agreements they made with themselves about their value as humans, justify that shit? In reality, no. Oh no. Not even kinda. Every single one of them is in for unimaginable things. You want to know why? Because the agreements you make with yourself have no bearing on reality. The agreements you make with each other have no bearing on reality. Your beliefs mean nothing to reality. Nothing. And every material impact you make, every social impact you make, every negative impact you make on the world, it gets charged back to you with unimaginable interest. Your beliefs do not give you license to be an asshole. Look at this officer, Derek Chauvin. Look at how many people are in support of him for kneeling on a man's neck on camera for north of 9 minutes. He did it with bad intentions. He did it with bad intentions. And cowardly ideologues, these good people, these aggressive judges, these righteous judges, while they stand in defense of him, children of Satan, answering the call of their father to be corrupt, how does Satan get to their heart? How does Satan get to their heart? It tells them they're good. It tells them that they are the judges. It's so funny because it goes back to the framing of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. For when you partake of this fruit, God knows that you will be just as Him, just as He is. You'll know right from wrong. You'll be good. You'll know good from bad. And I'm paraphrasing, but you get to become righteous judges. They ate from the tree. They became corrupted. What did it turn them into? What did it turn their progeny into? If going by the allegory. Good people. Godlike. Righteous judges. As the moments pass, you dig yourself deeper and deeper into a hole. A hole there is no exit from. The more you barricade yourself within beliefs, notably status beliefs, and you allow these beliefs to imbue you with a sense of authority to the tune that you become judge, jury, and executioner. Not by my belief, by and according to what I see through this perspective. The more you immerse yourself, the deeper you dig into idealism, the more corrupt you become. The more corrupt you become, the worse it gets for you. Your beliefs are not an excuse to be an asshole. Oh, we have another interlocutor. Here we go. Let's see. Nate Good, psychological warfare. Let that be color, politics, or any idea. Very good. Newton's physics. How can you prove the unimaginable rate of interest? Newton's physics. I don't know where to go with that. Nate Good. Yeah, psychological warfare. How can you prove the unimaginable rate of interest? What does that mean? If you want to, you feel free to clarify that point. Newton's physics, but I'm just going to take a crack at it based on what I can sort of surmise. The unimaginable rate of interest. If you're referring to, I guess, economy, and ultimately how systemic parasitism works to the end of getting people to sacrifice more and more of their mental and physical labor to the tune of those who are in positions of social authority living and benefiting at everyone's expense, then in that sense I would say you cannot prove the unimaginable rate of interest, because at the end of the day you have to understand that this is a systemic phenomenon. It traces back to principles, higher principles in natural organization. So what you need to understand is this. Right now what you're looking at is just systemic parasitism. It's systemic parasitism. Plain and simple. Parasites in positions of social authority are trying to live and benefit at the expense of everyone else, and they are this system of exchanges between labor and products and services is the way through which they empower themselves at the expense of others. So the interest rate is a fiction that basically makes it so that those who are living and benefiting at the expense of the masses can do so under under a smoke screen, per se. It's just a smoke screen. It's like a. Think about it like this. I want you to imagine you live in a house with Dracula, right? And Dracula's like, hey man, you can stay here as much as you like. There are a few rules. Now, if you break these rules, I'm going to have to tax you a little bit of blood. I'm going to tax you a little bit of blood, but only to make sure that you know the rules, right? Because this is how we stay safe. You know? Hey, if you leave the curtains open during the sunlight, that could kill me because I'm allergic to sunlight, so I'm going to have to tax you a little bit of blood. And then it's like, hey, if you leave any broom handles out that could possibly break and then turn into, a stake that could pass through my heart or cut me or any of those other things, then, I'm going to have to tax you because you're putting me in danger. The thing is, after a while, you would realize that as the situation progressed, Dracula would just start coming up with more and more rules to tax you and steal blood from you because he's a fucking vampire. Like, after a while, you sit here like, Dracula, I haven't opened the curtains. Everything has remained dark. I've made sure that there are no broom handles. Why do you keep sucking my blood? Dracula's like, oh, because you didn't do the thing. That's what the interest rate is like. It's parasitism. It's just a smokescreen. How does something that is lacking, fundamentally without, take from something that has, without being seen, without being recognized, without being noted? That's how it works. So hopefully I answered your question well enough. Let's see. Got some more comments. We got brother Armando coming back in. A former girlfriend of mine who is Haitian has a brother who was a cop at the time of Eric Garner's murder at the hands of the cops. And he defended the cops because his cop mentality did not allow him to see what most of us saw, a murder. Even though he is black, he couldn't remove himself from that delusion. Yeah, that's exactly how it works. When you get into when you're part of cop culture or any corrupt culture. And I'm going to say that police culture is a corrupt culture. There may be a handful of people who actually go in there wanting to diffuse tension, but the broad majority of them are bullies. They're bullies who get paid to take their anger and frustrations out on others or to disregard people. Like it's just a corrupt culture. The culture itself is corrupt, as is the culture of intelligence agencies up, down, through, and throughout society. Up to, down, and throughout society. It's a corrupt culture. Now, does that mean that every person in the culture is corrupt? Not necessarily, but when they circulate stories among themselves that make them unilaterally good and everybody else bad, and which imbue them with the authority to take their anger and frustrations out on others to the tune of murdering people just because it's something to talk about, like these are goals and accomplishments for people in those cultures. Yeah, it's a corrupt culture. So yeah, if this guy, even if he is black and he's Haitian, his if he's sort of more given to the cultural narrative of I'd say legal justice system, wherein he is the hero. Everyone else who's against him and who doesn't edify or recognize the authority of the institution which imbues him with authority are the villains. Why, as long as you call yourself the hero and someone else a villain, you can get away with anything. Think about it like this. A man who listens to religious dogma, say, the Indian text, the Brihad Raknim Nishad, right? Did I say that right? The Brihad Raknim Nishad. All right? So, let's say he reads that verse that says, after a woman's to come off of her menstruation, woo her, and if she doesn't accept your woo, beat her and rape her. It imbues him with a sense of moral authority. Hey, if she's not giving up the goodies, this text says that I am allowed to force myself on her and to cause her pain and suffering towards satisfying myself. And idealism and the massive delusion in society, in that particular vein of society, maybe it flies. In reality, you made a negative impact on someone and you have to answer for it. You made a negative impact on reality and a structural building block performing within reality. You have to answer for it. Does the belief that a book says I can do this grant them license to do something in reality? No. In society, maybe. In reality, absolutely not. The agreements humans make with themselves on reality's behalf have no bearing on reality. They have no value in reality. Reality is a living, sentient, self-aware system. Every impact you make on this system gets charged back to you with interest. Unimaginable interest. There are so many things worse in reality than pain. I'm talking about worse than physical, emotional, mental pain. There are so many things that are so far worse than disorientation, worse than discomfort. Like again, the flesh, it's a muted experience. It's a muted experience. When you're out of flesh and you experience reality without a buffer there between you and just being immersed in it, it's unimaginable. It's bad. It's bad. Your beliefs do not give you license to be an asshole. If you believe that you're the good guys because you worship one version of a God, it doesn't give you the license to go and invade a territory and rape and pillage and kill. Your belief doesn't give you the right to be an asshole. If you believe that you're from a special group, and that group, being part of that group gives you authority over other people. It may seem that way in society. It ain't that way in reality. Not at all. Every negative impact you make gets charged back to you. People really need attention that bad. It's wild. But yeah. The agreements you make with yourself, the agreements others have made and that you accepted and then internalized, and then so made with yourself, they have no bearing on reality. None. And once again, just because you believe something doesn't give you the right to go around being aggressive to other people. You know how many people come to me being aggressive assholes, trying to talk to me, trying to compete against me, trying to invalidate me with nothing to invalidate, just because they believe that their faith system gives them moral authority over me? Having absolutely no idea of who or what I am. It's so obvious by now. Like, it's so obvious I shouldn't even have to say it. But they let their status beliefs, their vanity, their pride bring them to me, this animus, and aggression and rage. I'm going to put you in your place, Donald King. I'm going to show you. And they actually believe that they actually are of the impression that their belief system gives them license to be dismissive towards me and to speak over me as though I, one, don't know what I'm talking about, but two, and more importantly, I'm somehow subject to them. Vanity. The feeling of moral superiority based on nothing but agreements people make with themselves. You mess around and you bring that energy to the wrong one. Some things hit in ways that don't heal. Just because you believe something doesn't give you the right to go around being aggressive, because if you take that aggression to the wrong one, you can get hit in ways that don't heal. Nothing makes you be an asshole. Nothing makes you be an asshole. It is a choice you make. It is something you practice doing. If you practice being dismissive, if you practice being competitive, you practice being narcissistic and aggressive, then you exponentially increase the odds of bringing that energy to the wrong one or wrong ones. Maybe don't practice being a dick. Because I'll tell you this much right now. Once you're out of this body, once we're all out of these bodies, the systems of agreements you made with yourself about what happens will be nowhere to be found. When you get to heaven, if you make it to heaven, I've already been. You'll see there are no streets of gold. There are no thrones. There are no pearly gates. There's no St. Peter. None of these effects humans came up with and agreed to are even remotely close. You know, the rules of physicality don't even apply there. Like the sheer notion that God would even value gold to begin with when it is it's a commodity for humans is insane. It's delusional. Why would God care about gold when it created all things? You didn't even bother to... most of y'all haven't even bothered to think about that. Why would God want thrones? That's human shit. If you made it into heaven, you would find that none of the agreements you made with yourself have anything to do with how things actually are. You made it into hell. Ironically, a lot of what you guys come up with about hell, at least so far as I can see through the Avatar perspective, it's not too far off the mark. Like, you came kind of close on hell. But hell is not actually the real death. So, of course, it's going to be a sort of recursion loop. So, I mean, the fact that you're born from hell and then sort of recycle back into it. Like, I guess it makes sense because you can only imagine what heaven is like. But since you source back to hell upon death, being parasitic in nature, I mean, like, carrying some sort of residual awareness for how that is, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, but this is how it is, guys. Don't be a dick. Your beliefs are not a license for you to be an asshole. Ever. Ever. Not in the social context, not in the context, not in the natural context, certainly not in reality. Status beliefs do not give you say, hey, we're better than these people. That means we're allowed to go murder them. We're allowed to hunt them for sport. Maybe in society. In reality, these are impacts you have to answer for. Nothing is free. None of it's free. You should know that. It's common sense. In idealism, if you immerse yourself inside of a cultural narrative, then yeah, maybe hunting and hanging black people or indigenous people or murdering people with poisons and diseases, maybe that shit flies in society, like within the throes of like deep social narratives and things of that nature. In reality, you know it's wrong. You know it's wrong. You know that you're creating a negative impact, and you know, I'm telling you in no uncertain terms, it gets charged back to you with interest. And the more of a devastating impact you make, the worse it's going to be for you. The more you assist in devastating impacts towards populations and things, this is the worse it's going to be for you. Like, none of this is free. None of it. So, yeah. You might believe that you are superior to women because you have a penis. Does that give you the right to rape women? No. You might believe that you are granted authority over children. Does that give you the right to abuse or molest children? Absolutely not. You might think that you're better than people with either darker or lighter skin than yours. Does that give you the right to hunt and terrorize them? Absolutely not. You might believe that you're from a superior culture or group. Does that give you the right to aggress against and murder and genocide others? Absolutely not. Reality is a system of balances. Every time you do something to disrupt balance in reality, every imbalance you cause gets sourced back to you. You don't get out of this scot-free. You can make it out of society without having to pay for all the imbalances you create in reality, but you can't escape reality, period. Period. You can't hide from reality in death. You can't hide from reality in hell, which is about to be destroyed anyway, or transformed. You can't hide from reality anywhere. So maybe don't be a dick. Maybe don't be a fucking asshole. Brother Armando comes back in. Sorry to chime in so much as you speak. While watching a documentary of Hemingway, I'm hearing a letter written by one of his sons telling his father what a cruel dick he'd been. It was pretty scathing. Yeah, Hemingway. He was sometimes when you are when you're a genius, in the way Hemingway was, there's a sort of, I want to say, compassionary. Is that the word I'm looking for? That should be the word. If it's not a word, it should be a word. Compassionary cost. So I don't doubt that in any right, you know. But yeah, he might have been a massive dick. It's kind of hard to be compassionate and grounded in reality when you're revered in society as being ethereal to some degree. And when your experience becomes so far removed from what others must experience and live through, then that air of elitism has a tendency to sort of inflate the ego and turn you into a massive dick. No, not compassionate wasn't the word I was looking for. I want compassionary. So the suffix "ary," it's more descriptive. So it's not compassionate per se. Like the word should be based on the principles of how English works at a mechanical level. The word should technically be compassionary, even though I'm fairly certain that the word doesn't exist. But by the rules of language, it should exist. I come across that a lot of times. I don't know how I understand language in the way that I do, but English is not based on principles, because if it were, it would be so much easier to convey a lot of the principles but that I speak to in the way of social and natural organization. One of the very first things that I learned when I first started doing this avatar work was that you know the English language, it's a slave's tongue. So things like synonyms and homonyms, they shouldn't exist to begin with. Language, it overlaps, it becomes paradoxical, and it loops all sorts of directions. And for the most part, when you're trying to explain things that are logically perfect in the way that I see the principles, everything sort of fits together and flows properly. It's kind of like looking at a jigsaw puzzle. In let's say the jigsaw puzzle pieces, let's say they're the English language, and then after a while, when you start putting the puzzle together, you start realizing that it's like the pictures don't match the shapes. So after a while, you're necessarily forced to become a makeshift lexicographer, and that's what happened to me. So in order to understand English, I had to completely strip the language down and organize it, similar to how you would in a research paper with key terms and whatnot. But I had to do that with like the broad majority of the language. So yeah, it's interesting. But compassionary should be the word. Ironically, it's like according to the the unspoken rules of language. I guess within the greater scope of lexicons, that would be the word. It's just not probably a word or a recognized word just yet. So yeah, it's weird. It's weird to speak a language that you understand the principles of better than the language itself. It's ironic, to say the least. But yeah. So guys, we are getting close to an hour. I had no idea that how this was going to go tonight. I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure how it went. But yeah, man, look, just because you believe something doesn't give you the right to force it on anybody. It certainly doesn't make you better than anyone, to the tune that you are allowed to take your anger and frustrations and hostility out on them. You are never ever allowed to elevate your feelings and beliefs to the level of truth and reality for everyone. A belief is an agreement you make with yourself. Agreements you make with yourself have no bearing on or value within reality. Belief systems have no bearing on or value within reality. The things that humans agree to among themselves, they mean nothing to reality. Nothing. And if you let beliefs trick you into thinking that you are allowed to unilaterally aggress against anyone for any reason, you necessarily set yourself up for the most massive L of all times. Of all time. That said, guys, I want to thank y'all for tuning in. It was warm in this room today. Hopefully it kept going. Anywho, I want to go to this screen right here. Guys, you know what it is. You can check me out on these platforms. I obviously shoot this on Facebook Live every Monday and Wednesday. I try to shoot for around 7, but especially with the time change, I mean, like, and also with the fact that it's like I have to go when it's time to go, not necessarily when I want. I get in between 7 and 8 most days, but yeah, I shoot these on Facebook Live. You can catch me on Instagram. I also fly all of these video podcasts over to my YouTube channel for your viewing pleasure. And also you can catch me on Medium. So that said, I'm going to leave you all for the evening. I wish you all a wonderful evening and you have a great night. It's your man. Oh yeah, check me out on Cash App and Donnie can. You can check if you get any sort of appreciation out of what I do. You can always, pass the collection plate and hit your boy on Cash App at Donnie Kang, DonnieKang, Or you can join the Patreon family at Avatar Cycle XIII. That's Avatar Cycle 13, and you can see this scrolling across the bottom of the screen. All proceeds go to building this up to a larger platform. Again, I don't know how long I'm going to be in this body, and I want to help as many people as I possibly can. You know, through for however long I'm gonna be able to. So yeah, man, we got to get her done. We got to get her done. Anywho, I'm going back to the main frame. Well, I went to a water drop. I like that water drop. Man, look at this. Look at this water drop. Look at that. That's beautiful. Look at that. It's just a beautiful image. I forget that I have this thing. I have this screen right over here because then I have this one where I can actually drop into the middle of it. I rarely get a chance. I haven't used these in a while, and I set these up to use in my OSB suite. But yeah, I hadn't gotten back into it, man. So it's like, man, maybe I might bring these back for the next time around, the next go round. Anywho, yo, I just want to say thank y'all for tuning in again. I love y'all all. I appreciate you. Hopefully you get something from this. Again, I'm not trying to sell you on any idea. I'm just trying to let you know how it is and what I see. And to the best of my ability, give you options you otherwise might not have. So you don't have to believe me. Form no agreement with yourself about the relevance of what I'm saying or whether or not what I'm saying is consistent with reality. Listen, observe, compare. Be honest with yourself and draw your own conclusions. I'm not trying to get you to believe me. I'm trying to get you to think and be honest with yourself. So far, everything that I've witnessed has been exponentially more accurate, more consistent than everything that's been achieved through convention by a country mile. I mean, like, no comparison. So, don't believe me. Think and be honest instead. It's your man. I'm out.